Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Writers Workshop. So our topic tonight is how to write an autobiography, and our presenter tonight is the author of Not Going Unnoticed, the Aaron Robinson story, and he's here to share his experience and help you gain tips on how to capture your story. Please help me welcome Aaron Robinson.
Wow, thank you. I've been waiting for this moment for a while. So I'm just glad you guys signed up, was able to come out and just hear me talk and give you some valuable information. So thank you for that. As you already know, my name is Aaron Robinson. I'm an Amazon bestseller. I released my book in October within the same week, October last year. Within the same week, it became a bestseller. And I wasn't looking for it to be a bestseller, but it happened, and I was grateful for that situation. I put a lot of work in it. I'm a publisher of Consciousness Magazine. I also work with a nonprofit called Still I Rise. I'm actually from Kankakee, Illinois area, so I made a lot of connections. I worked hard to make this opportunity or this situation come into a reality. And I'm gonna give you guys some knowledge of how you can write an autobiography, as I did, which I've been working for the last 20 years, believe it or not, off and on, making this book come into fruition. So if it's okay, if I could ask you guys to introduce yourself again. I don't want to say bad with names, but I got to kind of put a face to your name if you have any questions or anything. So if we could start on the end, and if you could just tell me your name again. I'm sorry.
My name is Zhao Lu.
Nice to meet you.
I'm from China, mainland.
Oh, wow.
Wuhan.
Okay.
Maybe some of you know Wuhan. In
Yes.
these few years.
Nice. Thanks for coming out.
So that's my brief introduction.
Okay, that's fine.
I come from China. My name is Xiaoqi and you can call me Maggie.
Maggie.
Okay.
Yeah, Maggie.
Yes, I met you early. I was trying to remember it, so I'm glad you gave me the shorter version.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But now I am a visiting scholar. And actually, she.
We three, those are visiting scholars.
Oh, wow.
In the
Nice.
school.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great.
Today we are very interested about your autobiography.
Absolutely. Thank you.
She is from northern eastern part of China, Heilongjiang province.
Heilongjiang province.
Nice, nice. Nice to meet you guys.
I'm Sandy Wu. I'm from east of China,
Mm-hmm.
in Qingdao City. Yeah. Qingdao.
Okay.
Shandong province. Yeah. You do not know, but it is an east coastal city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm very interested in writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I see the notice about the workshop.
Mhm.
So I'm very interested. So I just come.
Thank
to
you.
learn something about how to write
Alright.
biography.
Nice. Thank you for signing up. Appreciate that.
Kind of hard to follow. You're touching
Ah,
the world.
no, it's okay.
My name is Gail Edwards. I've been here for 25 years. I'm originally from Chicago. I'm a retired speech language pathologist.
Nice.
My name is Jenny. I'm from Northeast Iowa, but I've been in Champaign for the last 10 or 11 years.
Nice. Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Rashmi. I'm originally from India. I have been in this town for almost 40 years. And I just, more than autobiography, I would like to know how to write a memoir type thing that I want to convey experiences of my past life and this life.
Absolutely. Nice.
I'm Holly. I'm a retired librarian. I grew up in Pennsylvania, but I've been here in Champaign since 1988. I think I just was curious. I don't know that I'm serious about writing an autobiography at this point. But I'd sort of like to know the mechanics of it and maybe explore it a little bit and see what I come up
Yes.
with.
Absolutely. Nice to meet you, Holly.
I'm Connie Cochran. I'm originally from Phoenix, Arizona, but I've spent the last 30 years in Tennessee, and as of 5 months ago here in Champaign. And I'm a technical writer, so I'm interested in learning some of the other formats and
Yes.
ways and kind of broaden my scope a little.
Absolutely. Great. All righty, so we're gonna get started. How to write an autobiography. I know Brandon already. He's just here for the support. So, how to write an autobiography? This is the question I ask. What motivated you to want to write an autobiography? And the second question, why would you want to write an autobiography? Is it to leave history, to be remembered, to create prestige for your career, or just you as an individual? And who's your audience? So I'm going to go back to the first one. What motivated you to want to write an autobiography? For me, it was different. I was in college around 2003, and I took a trip to New Jersey with one of my friends. I was just telling him about my life story. And he said, you know what? You should write a book about this. I was like, no, I already got too much classwork to do. I don't know where to start to write a book. So we pulled over at a gas station for almost an hour, and we just kind of talked to each other. And he was very into my life story of where I come from, Hawkins Park, living in poverty, a family that came, basically from poverty to me escaping that poverty with my creative ideas and thoughts that I had, because I wanted something in life, coming from a family, sometimes electric cut off, no running water and so forth. And I just started to take notes of what he said, but I wasn't serious about writing a book. But I said, maybe one day this will come into life. I don't know. So here I am today standing in front of you guys, and I appreciate that. So I'm gonna go to the third question. Who's your audience? Is it youth, young adults, women, divorced women, men, and so forth? Is it professionals in their careers? Or is this a particular field or discipline that you want to talk about as far as with your biography? So what is an autobiography? An account of a person's life written by that person. And when we talk about autobiography, we want to chronologize your life from birth, childhood, or from childhood to adult to present time, or is it a vital event that took place in your life? A significant accomplishment, an accident. I was at a book signing, and this guy came to me. He said, I want to write an autobiography. And I said, what is it about? He said, I was in an accident with a log. He was driving one day going to work. He said a log came into his chest and like a foot out of his back. I said, wow, that's heavy. So I told him that's an event that took place. So that's a vital event that took place for that moment, and how he can write about the autobiography is telling himself or writing about how he got to his job, because he was on his way to work and his tree branch fell and came right into his chest. So that's a vital event that I look at it. But as far as my instance, this is chronicalized from like youth to a certain period of my life, because this is the first of a three-piece book that I have. I got 2 more books to write. They're already written, just got to edit it and all that good stuff. But I wanted to show you like from where I come from to a certain point when I was living in poverty with me and my family. So I thought that was interesting, meeting this guy who told me about that story. So next, I want to give you guys a worksheet, and I want you to follow some of the description. By the way, this is my wife, Takara. She's here to help me out. And she's going to pass out this worksheet as I go along through my slideshow, so you can get an idea of some of the information needed to write an autobiography. And the notes that I have, I make sure that you get a copy of that also, so you can know everything that I'm going over, so you can have that will be very helpful to you write your autobiography. So I'm gonna talk about, if you could follow like the first part, what I was just talking about, the chronicles of your life, or is it vital? That's at the very top on the right-hand corner. If it just depends on which type of autobiography that you're writing. Is it gonna be just an event or chronicles of your whole life? So signposting, this is very important when you write your autobiography. This is a part of writing an autobiography, the topic of the book, and also means using phrases and words to guide the reader through the content of your autobiography. And it explains the aspect and part of your life that you want to cover in your autobiography. This is your subject and message that you want to convey. It's something like a thesis. So when you write your book, every chapter, every paragraph is gonna go back to that topic, everything. So it can flow in such a order, so when your reader's reading it, they understand what you're trying to convey and what you're trying to write. So what to include? Personal information, describe yourself, describe your background. And I was on the train going to Chicago like a week ago. And this guy was in front of me because I was actually working on my slideshows for this show. I mean, not the show. I'm also a performer, so forgive me. So I was writing the information and get my slideshow together. And this guy looked back, he's like, how can you describe yourself? Because a lot of people have a challenge of describing who they is as an individual, and that's sometimes hard to convey. And I told him, if you know who you are as an individual, it's not difficult to do. And I know we deal with a lot of people, maybe your son, your daughter, mother, father, so you got to come off a different way to each individual. But as long as you know who you are, that could convey that message in your book, you could get the point across of who you are as that individual. So when they read it, they're like, oh, this individual love to do this. I know this person hard, or so forth. What you could connect with as far as writing your book. So personality traits, again, who you are, what's your character, and what's your personality. And if you want to write any notes as far as on the worksheet, feel free to do so. So in that way, when you get home, you don't forget of what you have. We talked about it so forth as far as this presentation and workshop. Okay, so also include valuable information. Birthplace, where you grew up. For me, where I grew up, I was born and raised in Chicago. My family moved to Pembroke, Hawkins Park. My parents were sharecroppers, so they found a place that reminded them of Arkansas. So I can use that information for us to set the theme of what I'm trying to convey for us with my book. Prior family history, ancestors' background, and when I wrote my book, I sat down a lot with my mother, my father. I asked them questions about my history. I called up some of my great uncles, aunties, and just picked their brain for us to know who I am and where I come from. So I wouldn't lose family history with what I'm writing about, so that could get a gist of who you are as an individual. Just like you mentioned, you're from China. If you just start writing your first chapters and you just writing, we may want to know more about where you come from, where your parents come from, so we can have the history background of who you are as an individual. Family conditions, household environment, social classes, were you rich, poor, middle class, and so forth. Social economics, your environment. So most important, who was your influential people in your life? For me, it was during a time when I was growing up and I had my mentors. My mentor was an art teacher. He pulled me to the side because I showed him one drawing that I did. And he said, you got some skills, or have some skills, I should say. And he believed in me. Even though my parents was there, but he believed in me. And he just did so much for me. He called my parents and said, hey, I want to come to your kid's house and show him how to draw more fluently. And he took me by his wings. I never had that. And I was drawing since second, third grade. And I didn't have nobody to do that for me. Not either my father, who was living in a household, because they may see something different within you, but this guy seen something within me and he poured that out of me. And I'm a professional graphic designer to this day, all because he pulled me to the side and believed in me. And that's all we want sometimes. So those would be the influential people in your life for your story, whether it's vital or you chronologizing your story. And the major events that happen in your life, memorable dates, times, moments. That's why I said go back to someone like your parents, your auntie, uncles, or whoever was in the event during that time that could give you a descriptive information of what was happening during that time. So that's very valuable. And convey your thoughts, feelings, and expressions. And with the feelings and expressions, I have a lot of critiques on my books. Some say you should have put more feelings, some say this, some say that. But I convey my feelings or how I felt. For example, the second book that I have coming out, when my family house burned down, that was the feeling like I didn't want to live anymore. That was the feeling of suicidal thoughts, and it's like I didn't want to belong to the world anymore, So I convey those feelings or how I felt during that time. But that was in the past. Here I am in front of you, and I feel great, So I had to get past that stage, but I showed my feelings during that time of how you want your readers to view you and your story. So compile and gather information about yourself. When I was in college, I kept a journal. Every moment, how I was feeling, how I was thinking, the experience I was going through, who I was dating, the classes, the teachers. I just kept a journal, and I wrote about every situation, everything. And that helped me find out who I was as an individual. And then next thing you know, I started writing. Once I compiled the information, I started writing about my history, where I grew up, how I grew up, who my siblings are, how many aunties, uncles I have, and all those things, because I wanted to leave like a memorable piece for them. And I gathered this information, and I was able to put it in my autobiography. And that helped me out a lot, just by writing that journal. And some people call it a diary. I hated it at first because people said that's what females do. And I have my journal, my black journal, and I just kept it. I kind of hid it away because I'm thinking about, hey, I don't want nobody to see me writing this. And I kept a notebook in my back pocket. I kept a notebook since I was like in junior high, because I always write it notes. I didn't even know why I wrote notes for. It was words I came across. I need to study what this word is. The teacher say something, I write it down, and I'm just taking notes all the time. So ask family members and influential people about your history, your memories or events that took place in your life, whether good or bad. And please feel free to stop me if you have any questions. I answer any questions that you have. And another important thing is photos, documents, etc. When I wrote my book, I went back to my hometown. I hired my photographer. I went to my school. I went to churches. I went to the food pantries. I went to the family home, and he took photos. So when you're writing your story, I want to incorporate that in there so they could have a visual of where you come from and what your autobiography is about. And keep in mind, when I speak about my autobiography, I'm chronicalizing everything. Some of you may have a vital point of the event, but I'm giving you more information from like my part of my story. So if you have questions about the vital part, feel free to let me know any questions that you may have. So, and it was one place I took a picture at. It was in front of the school that I went to, the elementary. And I didn't know I was going to use this picture, but it stood strong. It stood very strongly, and that's this picture right here. That's this photo. And I'm gonna get back to this part later about your cover and what you want to display as far as with your book. And I always ask my wife, what do they like about this photo? Even though I've been in the gym, I've been working out, but I think it's the image you want to portray. Because when people see your book, they're gonna judge it from the first cover. Even though if you think I did a lot of work, I put in all this, it really don't matter. People are gonna say what they're gonna say, the critics and everything. But if you writing it, as I did too, to leave a vital part of history for my family, so my children can see, after I'm not here anymore, they can see what their father been through, or just leaving no viable pieces behind, so it could be, memorable. So, evidence and compelling support. Whatever information that you have, that's what I was saying about photos or anything that you want to put in there, because some of the readers going to go back and see is you relevant, even if it's your first book. And if you have all that information, it could be very solid and strong that connects to your story, or I should say your autobiography. Okay, I'm going to go to the title of the book. The title of the book is catchy, attention grabber, and you could ponder on it and let it marinate, because I changed my title like a couple times. I thought I had the right title, but the more I wrote, I'm like, oh, this the title right here. This the title that I need. Not going unnoticed, that's the title. So when people see the cover of the book and see the title, they know like, hey, what's happening in this guy's life that had to not go unnoticed? So you can, it don't really have to come to you like, say you just about to write on your paper, you don't just have to write, this is gonna be my title, because it may change as you develop all your content. So I just wanted to bring that back to your attention. Okay, create vital and important content structure. This is very important. So write the outline of your autobiography for chapters, just free flow it. Sometimes we get stuck. Don't worry about that. You can always come back to it, like I said, keep a notebook or whatever you have, write a note. You may be at work, you may be driving sometime, you may just want to say, hey, I got to pull it over and write this down. Please write it down, because sometimes your thoughts don't come back to you. And that could be a very, very important part of your book that you may miss out on for your autobiography. So make sure you keep those notes with you when you free flow. Or you may be talking to someone like I used to do, and I be talking to them, having a conversation, and they're like, hey, what you doing? I'm like, I need to write this note down because I'm going to forget it, So that's very vital. And your chapters go back to the main topic of your book. That's the same posting I was telling you about earlier, what you need your book to convey. Everything is going to go back to the same posting of what you was talking about and what you want your audience, your readers, to capture from your book. So make sure you have your topics, your subheading. Again, that's the vital point. Write down all your memories and details. Write down everything. Some stuff you may not need once you get to a certain point, but at least you have the meat of what you need that's going to make your book very strong and very solid. So write down all the, logical structures, your chapters. So I studied this on many occasions. Some books had 12, 15, some had 20. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Will we have access to the handouts of this slide?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely, yes. Okay, absolutely, yes, I have a handout for you. So that depends on your study of how many pages you want, how many chapters. Once you get to a certain point, I'm not saying go overboard, because 18 chapters or 25, that could be a turnoff to the readers. that like I gotta sit here and read all this. Like you have to make sense of it. So that's something you need to study. I study a lot of autobiographies from like athletes and famous people and people who made a substantial moment in time. And I read a lot of autobiographies over my lifetime. So as a graphic designer, I sat there and studied and make sure I hit the right format that I needed to make my book look very cohesive. So it could change though. You know, I'm an independently publisher. So if you have, I want to say, a major publisher, things can change. You know, I can't speak from that level, but I can speak for independently and being in the publishing business for nearly 20 years. So that's very important how many pages you want, because I won't want to read your autobiography if it's 1,000 pages. Then we had to look at a lot of the young generations, they man the short span, so it's like, I hit a guy, I was gonna give him a book, he didn't want it. He said, I don't read books. I was like, wow. He didn't read books. I couldn't understand it. But this guy was like 24 years old. He said, I don't read books. I said, seriously? So it depends what you're trying to convey. So the world changed. You have your ebooks and so forth, and anything that you could get across where people may have an interest in reading. So that's up to you. I can't tell you what to do or how to do it, but I'm just saying be mindful of your pages and your chapters that you may have. Introduction, body, conclusion. Write a strong introduction that capture the audience's attention right away. Strong introduction. For example, when I open my first chapter up, I say, there I was homeless, living out of my Chevy vehicle. I think they want to know more about why I was homeless and living out of a Chevy. So it depends on what you want to write about that may capture the audience attention, that grasper, you know, when they read it. So engage the reader and keep their attention and showcase your main points and unique experiences. And use simple and understandable language. And your writing style is your writing style. It's many writing styles, but I think every individual has a writing style, but it's up to you regarding how you want to write and what you want to convey to your audience, your readers, as far as what you're writing about. So it's many writing styles, and I keep it simple, but I make it, as far as I write, that a 7th grader, 6th grader could read it to a 90-year-older. So it's up to you or how you want to convey your writing to your reader. And use a hook sentence. This is the synopsis and introduction. Ask a poignant and thought-provoking question or write a statement. For example, if you write a questions, it may be about a pet, like, for example, all cats, no, I'm sorry. Do you know if cats do this or this or this at night? I don't know, but I'm just giving an example. And you may have them readers that loves that question to trigger their man. It triggers their man, and it's thought-provoking, so they'll be more apt to pick up your book as far as what you're writing about. And summarize strong main points throughout the autobiography. So this could go back to the signposting that I was telling you about, that's sort of like a thesis of what you want to write about to continue to get the attention of your reader and so forth, and leave a lasting, meaningful, and memorable impression with a strong conclusion that stays in the mind of the reader. So for example, when I wrote my book, it was more of overcoming the challenges, obstacles, to motivation and inspiration. That's what I wanted to showcase, the motivation and inspiration. It wasn't so much of living in poverty, going through all these rough times and tough times. It was persevering, not giving up to be the best you. So that's why I want to showcase motivation and inspiration when they read my autobiography. So after the autobiography, it's an editing process. That's writing drafts and rough. So here I started writing my book in 2003 when I was telling you I went to New Jersey. And sometime I set it to the side because I didn't know if I was gonna finish, but I kept writing drafts and roughs, and so forth. It was a lot of work, and I had my wife to sit there with me just to get through all these roughs and drafts. And it's a daunting situation for me because I don't look at myself as if I was just this writer wanting to write, because that became very difficult for me at a point. But now I appreciate it far as, the last 10 years of putting out, or I should say releasing 5 books. So it's gonna be roughs and drafts, editing process, the proofing, and formatting and designing. That's a whole nother situation when you get to a certain point when you're ready to publish your book. So again, I said, are you gonna do it independently, or are you gonna have a company that's gonna do it for you? So everything could change during that process. So you could take your book, give it to a publisher who you want to print it, and they could change your whole format and content around. And you have your manuscript ready. Your manuscript is the book that you wrote, and they could change everything around. And you may be disappointed, you may be sad that they do that, but the end result, you want it to be a success. That's the end result. So it's up to you to choose how you want to release your book or publish your book. So, any questions for me? I hope I didn't move too fast, or hope you understood everything I was talking about.
Are we at the end?
Yeah, you can ask a question, yes.
I have lots of questions, but I was wondering, do you have more content?
That was it. That's the slideshow. I am going to give you out another sheet. It's an exercise, a brainstorming worksheet where you could take home, you could take to work anywhere, and just kind of dabble into it slowly and pick your brain. Just, yeah, so. Okay.
Thank you so much. This was so well structured.
Oh, really? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Because you're writing about your life story, I'm sure there were events that were difficult for you, like you were mentioning about. Did you get writer's block? And if you did, how did you overcome that?
I hate that. Yes, I did. And it was many, many months. Sometimes I just put it to the side. And keep in mind, I was new at this. I was in my early 20s trying to write a book, and I had no experience of how to write a book. Like I was saying, I was in New Jersey with a friend. He told me to write a book, and I got inspired by that. But I think the motivational point was that because I always wanted to leave some type of history. And I'm the type of individual that never give up and don't stop. So that keeps me motivated just to keep going, no matter what situations. And I could sit here and talk about a lot of events that was unjust in my life, but I'm just motivated by nature just to keep going. I have no choice. When you lose everything that it seems in your life, you just keep going. So I say that with your book, if you feel like you're at a stopping point or you want to give up, don't give up. You may have the book that could change the world, per se, or somebody's life. So that's how it's just self-motivated. It depends who you are as an individual inside. But keep going no matter what. Just keep writing, writing your book. I hope that answers your question. You're welcome.
So I have several observations.
Mhm.
When I first walked in, I noticed your book.
Yes.
It's probably the graphic artist in you, but it drew me to it.
Mhm.
But then the background was kind of vague, and it made me want to know more, even just about the picture.
Yes.
Then when you picked it up, I looked at how thick it was.
Yes.
Because a lot of people are turned off by a lot of pages,
Yes.
especially nowadays. They're used to texting and stuff. How many chapters did you have, and how many pages did you end up writing?
Actually, 12 chapters. And since the book was going to be into 3 parts, I think I'm roughly at like 130 pages.
Did you divide it equally?
Yes. And that was very, very tough for me, because at the end of the day, I'm at 450 some pages. I'm like, no. So that was very tough for me to break it up in parts, so.
So did you find yourself having a lot of information that you couldn't put into this project, or were you able to go back and put it into another project, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get to the point when you study writing, when you editing or your roughs, it's going to be a lot of information you have to just throw away. And there's going to be a lot of information that may be valuable to you, but it may be fluff to other individuals when they read it. So you have to choose and pick what you want. So you maybe can get your paragraph down. This may sound a little awkward. Your paragraph of 5-8 sentences down to like 1 sentence to make it stronger, because you're going to ask yourself, is this very important? Because at the end of the day, if you're writing about yourself, and this is what I kind of like juggled and fight with, the more book signings I went to many, and I'm sitting here at the table, and your thoughts start to play with you. I'm not an individual that's into myself or about myself, but I'm sitting here, people buying the book, I'm standing, I'm like, wow, it's like, it felt like I'm about myself. I didn't like that feeling. I don't like that feeling because I'm not about myself. So it depends what you want to edit or take out of your book that make it more substantial.
What about writing things that affect other people that are still alive?
I took that into account also.
Versus, especially when you're
The
dealing with
truth.
family, especially when you're dealing with families, and some families I cover up a lot of things. And
I say write about it. In my instance, I talked about a lot of individuals, but I didn't say any names. I didn't want anyone coming to me with any type of law situations or anything, or people have some type of animosity. So I wrote it as this individual did this or said this. I kept names out, but I do know a lot of autobiographies. They do mention names. So it depends how you want to write it and what's the consequences later once you publish it.
are gone, but some of the key people are still there. However, just do the same thing for the good people too, right?
Yes,
Just
absolutely.
treat them all the same.
Absolutely. And even the
You
good
talk
people,
about the occurrence, the situation.
yes.
circumstance.
Yes. It's just so that's why I had to figure out, be careful with names, because you don't want anyone coming to attack you later. But it's a way you can write it, to still get your point across. Yeah, so.
And I'm sure there are people that help you write like that.
Yes, absolutely. So you want to be mindful with that. So if you publish a book, you don't want anyone to come after you later and say, hey, you mentioned my name, and I don't get into all that feeling stuff, or who like you or don't like you. So I'm just saying, be mindful. You brought up a vital point, so that's very important. Mention the names. So you don't want any lawsuits either, because some people feel like it's detrimental to their character. So, use your discretion as far as,
Yeah, we
yes.
can do the heavy stuff right away.
Yeah. I'm gonna go over here, then I'm gonna come back to you. Yes.
So I was wondering, when writing something like this, where you're publishing experiences that are deeply personal and help make you who you are,
Yes.
and putting them out for public consumption and critique, how do you make yourself stay vulnerable and open when you're writing it, and not want to, maybe hide some parts of those experiences?
I put everything on the table, but your personal information is your personal information. I have personal information that I wrote but it's other information that I may not want to say because it's no one else's business in that sense, right? So it depends what you want your audience to read. Everything is, your personal information, it depends how you want to convey it and how you want to get it out. You know, I'm a personal person as far as like, it's certain things that I may not want to say or highlight it about an individual. So I look at it, it's basically, I don't want to sound rude, it's none of their business, but at the same token, still use the information in some type of way if that's part of your story. I'm not saying get rid of it because that may be part of your story, but it's how you want to convey it, you know. So it depends. So that makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
So it kind of seems like memoirs are one of those genres that are kind of hard to get attention for or like breakthrough if you're not like a celebrity. Like I feel like everyone reads celebrity
Yes.
memoirs, but how do you market your book or get attention for it if you're not a celebrity?
That's a good
You
question.
don't have like the name recognition necessarily.
If you're looking at it independently, you could do it by yourself. When I release my book independently, keep in mind I had a network of, I'm a publisher of Conscious Magazine, been around for 20 years. I have a lot of connects and network with people as far as the business I'm involved in. So it's a lot of tools too, as far as paying money for it to get your book in front of people places. But it depends on your budget or how much you want to pay to get it out there in front of people faces. So I just say release it and just, I'm not saying let it be a flop or nothing like that, but when I was talking to my wife, I said, you know what, we have our book out, right? So what works for me was book signings. So I started calling libraries, just so I can make sure that my book don't go unnoticed, because that's not really gonna be a good feeling if you publish your book, you put money behind it to get it published, and here it is sitting and no one want it. So you have to get out there, get on panel discussions. What I did also, press release. You could have a press release, get it out to the public, as far as just getting on news, newspapers, news stations, and so forth, and that can help bring a little more credibility to you. So I'm not going to say it's just about the money you have to put into it, which you will have to, but make sure you use those resources to make sure people know that you are existing as far as your product, your book. Yes.
I was just gonna make a couple of observations. It looks like I'm one of the older
Okay.
people here. And even though I'm 66, I have lost all of the older relatives except for one uncle at this point. So all I can say to all the younger people here is if you're serious about this, start now.
Yes.
Get those memories.
Yes.
People
Yes.
don't have them as resources.
Yes.
And the other thing I was just gonna say is most of this applies if you're just writing an autobiography because you want to have it for family history.
Yes.
Not really publishing it.
Yeah.
Still apply the same.
Yes.
And that's more the direction that I would be going, if anything. But I just wanted to.
No, and you're absolutely correct, because I reached out to my parents. Both of them passed away like a year and a half ago, right? And my great uncle had a lot of history, passed away this year. So I was able to get that information. So that's very important. And you're absolutely 100% correct. So thanks for bringing that up. Yes.
Yeah, I learned a lot from from what you said. For example,
Mhm.
as Manu says, there you have to think of the reader, reader who you are writing for. Before that, I just think that I just try to write on my story in my way, in my own way. I never think of who will read my story.
Yes. Yes.
So, and also my question, of course, here is that, when we write something, there's one's own style, yeah. So how do you describe your style, or how do you set your style, writing style?
I'm an artist,
Yeah.
you know. I'm a visual artist, so my imagination, how I'm descriptive, so I just use that and just write it down. I'm very descriptive. I paint a picture with my paragraphs, with my chapters. So that's how I come out far as how I write. So your writing style, I say just write it and just feel the flow of it. You know, I don't think it's a wrong way to do it. You know, just feel the flow.
Yeah, that's like,
Because that's your flow. That's your story.
yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah. So I say that. Yeah. 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 Yes.
Actually, from the beginning, you said you're raised up from Chicago.
Yes.
You lived in Chicago.
Yes.
So, I do not know much about the African American people.
Yes. 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 Yes.
I'm very curious about that. So that's the primary reason why I'm interested in your
Oh,
photography.
you know what?
Yeah.
I can't speak. I'm not gonna be political. Speak for all African Americans, but but yes, yes.
I didn't finish.
Go ahead.
Let me continue. Actually, I think there are 3 books about African American people.
Mhm.
Yeah, impressed me a lot. I want
Yes.
to talk.
Yes. Okay.
The first one is Evicted. It's not autobiography. It's a
Yes,
kind of
yes.
maybe documentary.
Okay.
Or serious book.
Okay.
Evicted.
Evicted. Okay. Okay. That sounds familiar.
Poverty and
Yes.
poverty in the American city.
Yes.
So it was published maybe in 2016, 8
Mhm.
years ago.
Okay.
It's written by Matthew. I cannot remember.
Okay.
His
Okay.
company. That book really interests me a lot.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I'm worried about a lot of African American people's life in Chicago
Yeah.
or in Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. I can't put a finger to it.
Wisconsin.
Milwaukee. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Milwaukee.
That book composed several American people's
Mhm.
story about their housing,
Yes.
something like that.
Yes.
That
Yes.
book, yes, really impressed us with.
Yes. That.
Another book is very classic, I think old or classic, comparatively speaking, African American literature, very famous. Alice Walker, a woman
Yes.
novelist. She wrote a very beautiful short story
Yes.
about his mother's kindergarten. Oh, no, not kindergarten, garden. Garden.
Yes.
Alice Walker. Alice Walker. Purple. Yeah, purple is one film. It was in the film.
Yes. The color purple.
My grandmother's father. Everyday use of my
Mhm.
my grandma.
Yes.
I remember the name now. Everyday use of my grandma.
Yes.
I think the people in that short story really impressed me. I think I feel the black beauty or black power.
Yes.
from
Yes.
that novel. I think
And I want to say I want to thank you for having an interest in the black culture. Yes, thank you. But even with that, my family is raised on the west side of Chicago in poverty. Like as I said, I don't want to sound political incorrect, but I can't speak for every African American because even my story is different. Some may came from rich families and have a great story of autobiography. So it depends. It depends, and whose story is whose story, you know. But I can only speak on my story, or if I read anybody autobiography, I can only talk about theirs. And I read a lot over the years. For example, reading like Dennis Dennis Rodman, when he played for Detroit, that was one of the best autobiographies I read. Or a rapper called DMX, how he was younger and he was using drugs, which caused an overdose when he was older. So he was already doing this as a teenager. So it's nothing new. And him coming from poverty. Or one of my friends, which is Booker T, Booker T of the WWE, is one of my good friends. He wrote 2 autobiographies. He wrote 2 parts. And I read where he come from, and him living in poverty, having 7, 8 siblings, and a lot of them didn't get along. And he took the chance of leaving Texas to go to Atlanta to be a part of the WCW, him and his brother. And that's a successful story as far as where he coming from being in prison, homeless and so forth. So it depends on what's the story, so I just wanted to share that.
I've been told a lot. I come from Chicago also. I was born there. My father was born here, but he was also adopted when he was very, very young. So we really didn't know his family. My mother came from the South with the big migration from Mississippi. And they were different as night and day. But people have keep telling me that I should write down what I tell them.
Yes.
Because it kind of bothers me because people don't really know about African Americans and they just assume how bad, maybe you come from the projects, and I did. When I was born, Cabrini Green was brand new, and that's where my parents lived for my first 2 years of life until my father got a stable job. But my father became the second African American firefighter in Chicago.
Wow,
and
nice.
He strove to get to know other races and other people to make things better for us.
Absolutely.
So I was fortunate to lead a middle class life. And yes, we lived on the west side for a little while and then far south and until we lived to Chicago until I was just an adult. But I had the most wonderful father in the world. People would not believe when I started talking, they was like, wow, your father was like that. But he was in sync with everything around him. My mother was very quiet and reserved, very pushed down and pushed in the back from being in the South and being pretty poor. But when she came to Chicago, I don't know how they did it, but they were a perfect match because he was the one that pushed us on. Absolutely. And I was the only one that went to college. And my mother wasn't even thinking, I kept saying, I'm going to college. And she said, no, you're going to graduate from high school and get married. I was thinking, no. But that's what the women in my family did. The older women found a good catch for them that they thought was good. And they messed up quite a few girls in the family. But I just said, I'm just not going to do that. But I think people need to know more than just one version,
Yes.
kind of what they see. And I've had a very hard life, but it's been because of my health issues and things happening in my life. But I've also been very strong-willed, and I think I got that from my father.
Yes.
So that's one of the things I think I'll start with, something about him.
Yeah, but that go back to your parents. Who are they? And that's you too, because you have something from that. So when the readers read that, they can say, oh, okay, now I understand why you've been through this or did that in such cases.
Why do you read so much? Why do you love the library so much? I hated reading. I wasn't good at it in school. And I hated reading in front of other people. But this is what happened. My mom was complaining to my dad, and I didn't find out till I was like 27 at a Thanksgiving dinner. They were laughing and teasing, and I was the good kid. And they said, what are you laughing about? Because we know why you were going to the library all the time. I didn't know that. But my mom got tired of me asking questions. I would ask questions, what kind of clouds are those? I don't know, they're clouds in the sky. When you cook, why do you have to mix and stir in one direction? So my dad told her, every time she has a question, make her go to the library, which was 2 blocks away, and make her bring you the answer back. And now I read for information, and I love to read.
Yes.
But that was something that happened, so I think that's something that should be written about. 'Cause people always
Absolutely.
say, why are you always reading? Do you read all these books? Yes, I do.
Yeah, yeah, because I have a mentor. He's in his late 70s. When he was at Cabrini Green, he said all he did when he was in high school, he went to the library. He been one of the most successful people in Chicago. So it's great stories that could come from perseverance, not giving
Sometimes
up.
I think those stories don't get pushed out in the open.
No, yeah.
But I'm so glad that you're spending time to.
No, I'm glad you guys is here for me. I really am. And I try my best to make sure I prepare the right notes for you guys and gave you the right information that you needed. So I thank you. You're welcome. That's it. Any more questions? We good?
First of all, thank you for your presentation and for your, maybe I can say, instruction. I think it is very, yes, just like the lady herself, it is a structure and to give us some skeleton or framework to learn how to write
Absolutely.
biography. I'm thinking is that because I have said we are visiting scholars, so we work for universities and we even write monographs.
Yes.
But most monographs are funded, generally funded by the state or province or our university. I think autobiography is different from monograph. But one of the purpose is quite similar because when you write monograph, one of the purpose or motivation is to build our academic reputation. So you have mentioned the motivation of writing autobiography, such as to be remembered, to build your reputation, and
Yes.
kind of things. So what I want to know is, say, if your book is self-published, if not, what about the royalty? And what's the things like the book to be merchandised?
But just basically through Amazon, you can go through their process, KDP, and you just upload and use just put up all the information, and your royalties. It depends on how you selling your book. I never used a marketing tool on Amazon. As I was saying earlier, I had resources and a network that worked for me. But those tools are on there for you to use to get your royalties and so forth. So it's all how you set up your, I want to say paperwork, even though it is digital. So it's how you set it up and how you market your own situation. Yeah. So I know my time is running out. Did you have another question? We good? So I just want to thank you all just for standing up and being here. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for
I'm gonna get a
coming.
picture.
A big thank you to Aaron
Thank
for
you.
leading such an impactful workshop. We'll be back down here on Wednesday, June 19th. That will be the workshop Mastering Historical Fiction with local author Jeanette Watts. So I hope you can join us back for that one. Thank you again for coming.